At 1:17 in the morning, Noah Arden sent the most reckless message of his life. If you insist on keeping me awake, you owe me dinner. Ask nicely, and I might even wear the black shirt you like. He meant to send it to his cousin Clara, who had spent the last hour ordering him to help with her engagement party. Instead, his thumb landed on the contact directly below hers. Celeste Marlowe, Chief Executive Officer of Marlowe Industries, silver-haired terror of the 42nd floor. The woman who had fired a vice president for lying about a decimal point and made 3 investment bankers apologize to a room full of interns. Noah stared at the name above his message until his vision blurred. He pressed the screen. No option to recall it appeared. Perfect, he whispered to his empty apartment. I've survived 27 years, and this is how I die. In a black shirt. 3 dots appeared. Celeste was typing. Noah stopped breathing. Her reply arrived 10 seconds later. Tomorrow.
7 o'clock. Black shirt.
Don't make promises to your CEO that you cannot keep. Noah read it once, then twice. On the 3rd reading, he checked the number to make sure one of his coworkers was playing a prank. The contact was real. He had received 2 brief messages from Celeste during the previous month's acquisition. One ordering all analysts to attend an emergency review, and one asking why his expense report included $12 for a rubber duck. The duck had been part of a stress test. The accounting department had not appreciated the explanation. Another message appeared. And Mr. Arden, since you are already awake, bring me the revised supplier risk model at 8 tomorrow morning. Noah sat up. That was impossible, for a different reason. At Lumina, his badge read Noah Reed, a forgettable junior procurement analyst at the struggling battery company Marlowe Industries had acquired 6 weeks earlier. His official record showed late arrivals, average performance, and an almost artistic ability to avoid executive attention. The supplier risk model was not assigned to him. It had been created anonymously and uploaded to Lumina's internal server under the name North Wind. Only 4 people knew North Wind was Noah. One of them was his father, one was Noah, one was Mason Lee, his best friend and the only cybersecurity engineer alive who could insult Noah for 20 minutes without repeating himself. The 4th was an elderly housekeeper who believed North Wind was a weather application. Celeste Marlowe should not have known. Noah's embarrassment vanished. He placed both feet on the floor and typed carefully. I think you have confused me with someone competent. Her answer came immediately. I never confuse people, Noah. 8 o'clock. He did not sleep. At 7:55 the next morning, Noah crossed the mirrored lobby of Marlowe Tower wearing the black shirt. He told himself it was the only clean shirt he owned. He did not examine why he had ironed it twice. The lobby screens showed Celeste announcing Project Aurora, a next-generation home battery that could keep a house powered for 3 days during an outage. The launch was 12 weeks away. If it succeeded, Lumina would recover from years of mismanagement, and Marlowe Industries would control the fastest-growing energy storage market in the country. If it failed, 2,000 employees would lose their jobs. That was why Noah had gone undercover at Lumina. The public knew the Arden family as the owners of Arden Capital, one of the largest private investment groups in the region. What the public did not know was that Noah, the chairman's only son, had refused 3 executive titles and disappeared into a subsidiary under his mother's surname. His father believed leaders were forged in boardrooms. Noah believed a person who had never shared a night shift with warehouse workers had no right to decide which of them was expendable. He had spent 11 months learning where Lumina actually bled money. The answer was not lazy workers or outdated machines. It was corrupt purchasing contracts, phantom vendors, and executives rewarded for hiding delays. His anonymous model could prove it. He planned to take the evidence to Arden Capital's board once it was complete. Then Celeste had bought Lumina before he was ready. The elevator doors opened on the executive floor. Celeste's chief of staff, Iris Park, waited outside with a tablet held against her navy suit. Iris had the controlled expression of someone who had already prevented 4 disasters before breakfast. Her gaze moved to Noah's black shirt. You actually wore it, she said. I lost a battle with my laundry basket. Of course. How much do you know? Enough to regret checking the CEO's schedule this morning.
Iris opened the office door. Try not to make my job stranger than it already is.
Celeste stood beside a wall of windows, the waking city spread beneath her. Her silver hair fell over one shoulder, bright against a dark burgundy suit. She looked young for a CEO, until she turned her pale gray eyes toward Noah. Then she looked like a person who had been making impossible decisions since childhood. On her desk sat 2 cups of coffee and a printed copy of the North Wind model. "Close the door," she said. Noah did. "Before we begin, I should clarify that the message was intended for my cousin. Your cousin likes you in black. She thinks it makes me look employable." The corner of Celeste's mouth moved. It was not quite a smile, but it was closer than anything Noah had ever seen on her face. "Sit down." He remained standing. "How did you connect me to North Wind?" "You embedded an Arden capital forecasting method in the 7th worksheet. Your mother developed it 14 years ago."
Most people have forgotten that. I have not. Noah's pulse tightened. You knew my mother?
"I studied every company Arden Capital ever rescued before I acquired Lumina. Your mother was the best risk analyst of her generation." Celeste tapped the report. "You changed 3 assumptions, but you kept her habit of coloring uncertain inputs blue. Then, last Thursday, I watched a supposedly mediocre employee correct a logistics director's calculation without looking at the screen. Maybe I was lucky." "You were lucky 11 times in 40 minutes. She placed another folder beside the model. His real name, school records, family photographs, and a copy of his sealed employment arrangement waited inside. Noah finally sat. "If you intended to expose me, you would have done it already." "Correct. If you intended to fire me, Iris would have brought security." "Also correct." "So this is recruitment. This is a negotiation." Celeste slid the coffee toward him. It contained 1 spoonful of sugar and a small amount of cinnamon, exactly how he drank it. That detail disturbed him more than the background check. "Project Aurora is being sabotaged," she said. "Someone inside Lumina is changing supplier approvals after they clear compliance. 2 weeks ago, a shipment of certified cooling cells was replaced with cheaper units. Yesterday, our prototype overheated. No one was injured, but the next failure may not be contained." Noah stopped pretending to relax. "Your audit logs?" "Altered." "Board access?" "Possibly." "And you think Northwind can trace the substitutions?" "I think you can. Your model flagged the vendor 3 days before my team found the bad cells." He opened the file. Photos of scorched equipment filled the first page. The damaged casing had split near the pressure valve. Had the prototype been installed in a home, the fire could have spread before the alarm activated. "Why not call the police?" "Because a public investigation would kill the launch, destroy Lumina's remaining credit, and warn the saboteur before we identify the network. We are preserving evidence and cooperating with an external investigator, but I need someone inside the project who is not tied to my executive team." "You need a disposable heir." "I need the man who spent 11 months earning the trust of people my directors barely notice." There was no flattery in her voice. That made the statement land harder. Noah turned another page. "What are you offering?" Celeste placed a 3rd document on the desk. It was older than the others. The paper bore the signatures of Noah's grandfather and Celeste's grandmother. At the top, in language both formal and absurd, was a memorandum promising that their families would consider a marriage between their heirs before any future corporate merger. Noah stared at it. "This is a joke. Unfortunately, our families have no sense of humor. My father never told me." "Mine told me on my 18th birthday." He presented it between a market report and a list of suitable wedding venues. "And you agreed?" Celeste's expression cooled. "I agreed to nothing. The memorandum is not legally binding. Emotionally, however, our parents have treated it like sacred law. Your father is using it to pressure you back into Arden Capital. My board is using it to suggest I owe them a merger." She pushed a slim silver lighter across the desk. "Help me identify the saboteur and deliver Aurora safely. In return, I will burn every copy of this agreement in front of both families and publicly reject any merger based on our private lives. You will be free to present your worker-first restructuring plan without anyone claiming you did it to obtain Marlowe Industries." Noah looked from the lighter to her unreadable face. "And if I refuse?" "I still destroy the agreement. Consent is not a bargaining chip." "But Project Aurora may fail, and the person responsible will try again somewhere else." That answer was not what he expected. "Why show me the document at all?" For the first time that morning, Celeste looked away.
Because you deserve to know why our parents keep arranging situations in which we accidentally occupy the same room. And because if we work together, there can be no hidden contract between us. Noah studied her profile. People called Celeste an ice queen because she never raised her voice, never cried in public, and never seemed surprised. But ice was not the absence of feeling. It was water placed under pressure until it became armor. He closed the sabotage file. 12 weeks is too long. Whoever replaced those cells will accelerate once they realize the prototype survived. Give me 30 days. Celeste turned back. You believe you can solve it in 30? I believe we have 10 before they create a failure too large to hide. The other 20 are for proving it. What do you need? Full access to purchasing, maintenance, and shift schedules. No public promotion. No interference from my father. Mason Lee joins the team, and none of your executives know my identity unless I approve it. Agreed. One more condition. Her eyes narrowed. Name it. Noah picked up his coffee. You did promise me dinner. Silence filled the office. Then Celeste Marlowe, the woman whom financial magazines described as incapable of embarrassment, turned faintly pink at the tips of her ears. 7 o'clock, she said. Do not be late. Noah took a drink and discovered the coffee was perfect. That should have warned him how complicated the next 30 days were going to become. At 6:58 that evening, Noah arrived at a quiet restaurant on the top floor of an old observatory. There were no reporters outside, no private dining room full of directors, and no orchestra waiting to turn a business arrangement into a proposal. Celeste sat at a table beneath the restored glass dome, reading a technical report while stars slowly appeared above her. She had changed out of her suit. The simple charcoal dress she wore made her silver hair look almost blue in the evening light. Noah paused for half a second too long. Celeste lowered the report. Is there a problem? I'm trying to determine whether this is dinner or a second performance review. That depends on whether you say something foolish. Then it is definitely a performance review. He sat across from her. A waiter brought grilled fish, roasted vegetables, and a bowl of mushroom soup without offering menus. You ordered for me? Your employee medical form lists a shellfish allergy. Your cafeteria purchases suggest you dislike olives and pretend to like salad when supervisors are watching. You investigated my lunch? I investigated everyone with access to Project Aurora. Your lunch happened to be unusually dishonest. Noah tasted the soup. It was warm, smoky, and far better than the instant noodles waiting in his apartment. For someone who insists this is not a date, you are dangerously attentive. Celeste lifted her water. For someone who flirted with his CEO by mistake, you recover dangerously quickly. I adapt under pressure. I noticed. The answer was too quiet to be mockery. Noah looked at her, but Celeste had already returned her attention to the city below. They spent the first half of dinner discussing the investigation. Noah explained that the supplier substitutions could not be accomplished by one corrupt buyer. Each battery component passed through procurement, quality control, and warehouse intake. Someone had built a shadow process using temporary vendor codes, altered timestamps, and maintenance windows when cameras were offline. Celeste listened without interrupting, occasionally asking a question precise enough to prove she had read every line of his model. The saboteur understands the company better than the board does, Noah said. That means a current executive, or someone protected by one. My Uncle Victor is vice chairman and controls 3 board seats, Celeste said. He opposed the Lumina acquisition. Do you suspect him? I suspect anyone who benefits. Victor benefits if Aurora fails, but he is obvious enough that accusing him without proof would look like family warfare. Anyone else? Chief Financial Officer Damian Cross wants to sell Luminous patents to Helix Energy. Operations Director Graham Pike has approved most of the questionable vendors, and one of my own assistants copied confidential launch documents last week. You say that as if you have more than one assistant capable of treason. I have 8. Iris is capable, but not interested. Noah laughed before he could stop himself. Celeste's eyes softened for a moment, as if the sound had surprised her. When dessert arrived, the waiter placed a small lemon tart between them with 2 forks. Celeste looked at the second fork, then at Noah. I ordered separate desserts. The waiter appeared horrified. My apologies, Miss Marlowe. The kitchen received instructions for 1 tart to share. Noah noticed a familiar gold cufflink disappearing around the edge of the room. His father wore identical ones. "Our families," he said. Celeste closed her eyes briefly. "My mother chose the restaurant. My father bribed the kitchen. We can send it back." Noah picked up one fork. "Or we can disappoint them by discussing fraud while sharing it." Celeste hesitated, then took the other fork. They cut into the tart from opposite sides. It was absurdly sour. Noah's face twisted before he could control it. Celeste laughed. Not the small, polite breath she used at press conferences. A real laugh escaped her, bright and startled. She immediately covered her mouth, but the damage was done. Noah stared. "What?" she asked, regaining her composure. "Nothing. I just realized the Ice Queen has a human operating system. And I just realized the secret Heir cannot tolerate lemon. This tart could remove rust from a ship." She took another bite without flinching. Coward. He accepted the challenge. 3 bites later, both of them were trying not to react while their eyes watered. When the waiter returned, Celeste calmly requested the check. The moment he left, she grabbed her water and drank half the glass. Noah smiled. "Coward. Mention this to anyone and your access disappears. Blackmail on the first date. Bold strategy. This was not a date. Then why are our parents watching from behind that plant?" Celeste turned. Evelyn Marlowe and Richard Arden ducked too late. Richard lifted his menu as if it could hide his broad shoulders. Evelyn gave them an unapologetic wave. Celeste stood. "We are leaving." Their parents intercepted them near the elevator. Evelyn Marlowe was elegant, warm-eyed, and entirely immune to her daughter's stare. Richard Arden looked like an older, sterner version of Noah, except his silvering hair was combed and his tie had never known rebellion. "What a coincidence," Evelyn said. "You reserved the restaurant," Celeste replied. "A fortunate coincidence." Richard looked at Noah's open collar. "You own ties. And yet civilization continues without one. You also own an office at Arden Capital. It has been waiting for nearly a year." Noah's shoulders tightened. Celeste noticed. Before Richard could continue, she held up the old marriage memorandum. "We know about this," she said. "The answer is no." Evelyn's smile faded. Richard did not move. No to what? No to using a possible marriage to force a merger. No to arranging accidental meetings. No to treating our private choices as corporate assets. "The agreement asks only that you consider each other," Evelyn said gently. "We are considering each other as partners in an investigation," Celeste replied. "Nothing more is owed." Noah glanced at her. She had every reason to let him fight his own father, yet she stood beside him without asking for credit. Richard's gaze moved between them. "An investigation?" "Project Aurora has a security problem," Noah said. "I am helping for 30 days. My identity remains confidential. You refused to help Arden Capital for 11 months, but one invitation from her brings you running?" The accusation struck exactly where Richard intended. Noah felt the old argument rise in his throat. Before he could answer with anger, he remembered 2,000 Lumina employees and a split battery casing. "I'm not helping because Celeste invited me," he said. "I'm helping because someone is willing to risk families' lives and workers' jobs to win a board vote. If Arden Capital had listened when I warned about Lumina's procurement system 8 months ago, we might not be here." Richard's jaw hardened. "You submitted an anonymous report." "Because reports with my name were praised before they were read. I needed to know whether the evidence could stand without the Arden label. And has it? Ask Celeste. She found me through the work, not the surname." Celeste met Richard's gaze. "Your son identified a failure my entire executive team missed. I hired him for that reason." For a moment, none of them spoke. Richard looked at Noah differently, not with approval exactly, but with the first uncertainty Noah had seen in him for years. 30 days, Richard said at last. "After that, the Arden board expects your proposal." "They will have it." Evelyn touched Celeste's arm. "And the memorandum?" Celeste handed Noah the silver lighter. He held the bottom corner of the paper over a brass ashtray in the lounge and ignited it. Flame curled through the old signatures. Their parents watched as the promise became black ash. "There are other copies," Richard said. "Burn those too," Noah replied. Evelyn sighed. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. Your grandmother would call this dramatic.
Grandmother wrote the dramatic contract, Celeste said.
True, she would also have liked him.
Celeste's cheeks warmed. Noah pretended not to notice. Outside, rain had covered the street in silver. Celeste's driver was delayed by an accident, and Noah had arrived by train. They stood beneath the restaurant awning while their parents departed in separate cars, both looking far too satisfied for people whose scheme had just been burned. "I can call you a car," Celeste said. "The station is 6 blocks away." "It is raining." "Water has not defeated an Arden since my great-uncle tried to launch a paper umbrella company." Celeste looked at the rain, then removed her heels. "What are you doing?" "Walking to the station." "You have a driver." "You made it sound educational." Noah took off his jacket and held it above them. It did little against the wind, forcing them close as they crossed the first intersection. Celeste carried her shoes in one hand and the remains of her dignity in the other. By the second block, water had darkened the hem of her dress. By the third, Noah stepped into a hidden puddle and splashed both of them. Celeste stopped. "I can explain." She kicked water at him. Noah stared at the wet mark across his trousers. The CEO of Marlowe Industries stood barefoot on a city sidewalk, looking almost pleased with herself. "That," he said, "was an act of war." They reached the station, soaked, laughing, and entirely unprepared for Iris to be waiting under the entrance with 2 umbrellas. "I tracked your phone," Iris told Celeste. Her gaze shifted to Noah. "I see the investigation is progressing." "Not a word," Celeste said. "I have several words. Most concern pneumonia." The following morning, the investigation began in earnest. Noah returned to Lumina wearing his usual wrinkled jacket, an expression of mild confusion. To his coworkers, he was still the analyst who kept instant noodles in his desk and lost every office sports pool. Only Celeste, Iris, Mason, and a retired prosecutor named Elena Ward knew he had authority to enter every system in the company. Mason arrived at noon with a backpack, untied boots, and enough electronic equipment to make building security nervous. He was tall, sharp-faced, and incapable of greeting Noah normally. "So," Mason said, dropping into the chair beside him, "you accidentally propositioned the most intimidating woman in finance, and she responded by giving you access to a corporate conspiracy." "That is an inaccurate summary." "Which part?" "I did not proposition her. You promised to wear a special shirt." Noah pushed a tablet toward him. "Trace these vendor certificates." Mason read the list. His amusement disappeared. All 9 were validated through the same external portal, but the portal logs showed different IP addresses, which means someone cloned the validation tokens. Mason leaned closer. "This isn't ordinary invoice fraud. They are creating clean histories for counterfeit components. Can you follow the tokens without alerting them?" "Probably. Can your icy girlfriend get me administrator access?" "She is not my girlfriend." "Your icy contractual almost wife, then." "The contract is ash." That sounds like something a married man says before sleeping on the sofa. Noah ignored him and opened the shift schedule. Every suspicious delivery had entered Warehouse 4 during a planned camera outage. The outages were approved as software maintenance by Graham Pike, Lumina's operations director. Too obvious. "Pike's signature is on all of them," Noah said. "Either he is careless, guilty, or being framed." Mason connected a small drive to his laptop. "Give me 48 hours. They had 6. At 4 that afternoon, a forklift operator named Rosa Alvarez quietly approached Noah in the cafeteria. Rosa had worked at Lumina for 19 years and trusted executives about as much as she trusted vending machine sushi. "You still collecting examples of stupid management decisions?" she asked. "Always." She placed a torn shipping label beneath his hand. The vendor name matched a company in his report, but the serial number used an outdated format. "Found it stuck under a pallet in 4, Rosa said. "Supervisor told me to forget it. Then 2 men I've never seen moved the pallet after midnight." "Did you see their faces?" "One wore a maintenance badge. The other had shoes that cost more than my car." Noah pocketed the label. "Would you be willing to speak to an investigator?" "If you tell me why a lazy analyst suddenly sounds like a lawyer." "Because being underestimated is useful." Rosa studied him, then nodded slowly. "Knew there was something wrong with you." His phone vibrated. A message from Celeste appeared. "Warehouse 4. Now." Come alone. Noah's chest tightened. He typed one question. Is this business, or do I need the black shirt? The response took longer this time. Business. And stop making me smile during board meetings. Noah looked at the screen, suddenly far too aware of his own heartbeat. Then, the warehouse fire alarm began to scream. Workers poured into the corridor, red lights flashed above the doors, and the public address system ordered everyone toward the eastern exits. Noah grabbed Rosa before the crowd separated them. Where was the suspicious pallet? Section C, near the cold storage room. Smoke rolled beneath the warehouse door. Get outside and tell security no one enters 4, Noah said. Rosa caught his sleeve. That includes you. Celeste is in there. He pulled his jacket over his mouth and ran against the evacuation flow. Heat struck him when he opened the service entrance. The fire had not spread across the whole warehouse, but flames climbed one stack of cardboard containers near Section C. Sprinklers hammered the floor with water. Through the smoke, Noah saw Celeste dragging an unconscious security guard by the shoulders. He reached her and lifted the guard's legs. I told you to come alone, she coughed. That instruction lacked important context. Together they carried the man toward the door. A battery casing burst behind them with a sharp metallic crack. Celeste flinched but did not let go. Outside, emergency responders took the guard and pushed oxygen masks into their hands. Noah rounded on her. Why were you inside? I arrived before the alarm. I saw someone leaving the restricted aisle and followed him. Alone? I had security. He was struck from behind. You are the CEO of a company being sabotaged. Chasing suspects through dark warehouses is not leadership. It is volunteering to become evidence. Celeste removed the oxygen mask. Her eyes flashed. And running into a fire after me was what? Strategic analysis? I knew you were inside. I knew the person who could kill 2,000 jobs was inside. Jobs can be replaced. You cannot. The words escaped before Noah could stop them. Celeste went still. Around them, sirens wailed, workers shouted names, and rain hissed against the loading yard. Yet the space between them became strangely quiet. Noah looked away first. Also, replacing a CEO creates terrible paperwork. Coward, she said softly. We've established that. Elena Ward, the external investigator, arrived before the fire department finished containment. She was in her late 50s, with iron-gray hair and the patient expression of someone who had spent decades waiting for liars to trap themselves. She confirmed the fire had started in the exact aisle where counterfeit cooling cells were stored. Someone had used an accelerant and disabled one sprinkler zone. The unconscious guard had a fractured skull but would recover. The man Celeste saw escaped through a loading door before the lockdown. He knew we had found the labels, Noah said. Either Rose's supervisor reported her, or our communications are compromised. Elena nodded. From now on, no sensitive discussion occurs on company devices or inside executive offices. Where do you suggest we work? Celeste asked. Somewhere Victor Marlowe's security contractors cannot monitor. Iris, who had arrived carrying Celeste's coat, said, The old Marlowe guest house has an independent network and private security. Noah saw the trap before Celeste did. Guest house? It is a 12-room residence behind Miss Marlowe's home, Iris explained. The former research team used it during confidential acquisitions. Behind her home. Approximately 30 meters behind it. Celeste folded her arms. There is no need for Noah to stay there. Elena looked between them. Mr. Arden's apartment address is in Lumina's personnel system. If the fire was intended to destroy evidence, whoever set it now knows Northwind is getting close. Moving him is the sensible option. I have a sofa, Mason offered. You also have 6 unsecured servers, a broken front lock, and a neighbor who live streams the hallway, Noah said. She has excellent audience engagement. Celeste pressed 2 fingers to her temple. The guest house, then. Separate buildings, separate schedules, written access rules. Iris opened her tablet. I anticipated that. She displayed a document titled Secure Residence Protocol. It specified that Noah would occupy the guest house, Celeste, the main residence, and neither would enter the other's private space without explicit permission except during a verified emergency. Project meetings would occur in the glass library connecting the 2 buildings. Meals were optional. Recording devices were prohibited. Either person could end the arrangement at any time. Noah read the final line. No unplanned flirting after midnight. Celeste looked at Iris. Iris remained expressionless. Operational clarity, Noah signed. Celeste signed beneath him with a sharper motion. This is temporary, she said. Naturally. I rarely move in with women for more than 30 days. Mr. Arden, Iris said, I can still arrange the secure basement. The Marlowe estate stood on a wooded hill above the northern edge of the city. Noah expected marble halls and servants moving silently through museum-like rooms. Instead, the main house was modern but warm, built around an inner courtyard filled with maple trees. Books crowded the living room shelves. A pair of running shoes waited beside the stairs. On the kitchen counter sat a mug printed with the words, World's Okayest Daughter. Celeste saw him reading it. My mother has a hostile sense of humor. I like her already. She likes you too much. That is the problem. The guest house was larger than Noah's entire apartment building. He chose the smallest bedroom, dropped his bag, and returned to the glass library. Mason had covered the central table with laptops. Elena built a wall of evidence. Iris installed signal blockers and a coffee machine. For the next 4 hours, they reconstructed the counterfeit supply chain. The fake components originated with a shell company called Blue Harbor Logistics. Blue Harbor had no warehouse, no employees, and an address belonging to a closed laundromat. Payments traveled through 3 consulting firms before reaching a private account in Belhaven. The account holder was hidden behind a trust. We need the original purchase approval, Noah said, not the altered database version. Celeste pulled up scanned board records. Every order above $5 million has a paper authorization in the legal archive. Who can access it? The General Counsel, CFO, Chairman, and CEO. Victor is acting chairman, Damien is CFO. That narrows nothing. Mason enlarged the forged certificates. It narrows one thing. Whoever made these had a real certificate to copy. The serial structure changed in March. Our counterfeiters used the old pattern because their original template predates the acquisition. Noah leaned back. So the scheme started before Celeste bought Lumina. Which means the acquisition didn't create the fraud, Elena said. It threatened it. That shifted everything. Victor might be protecting an existing income stream, but the operation had begun under Lumina's previous owners. Graham Pike, who had worked there for 14 years, moved to the top of the suspect list. At midnight, Iris and Elena left for the city. Mason fell asleep over his keyboard with one hand inside a bag of chips. Noah continued comparing maintenance reports until the numbers doubled on the screen. A cup appeared beside his hand. If this contains lemon, I am resigning, he said. Hot chocolate. Celeste stood behind him in a soft gray sweater and loose black trousers. Without her suit, she looked less like a corporate weapon and more like a tired woman who had forgotten how to stop working. Noah glanced at the clock. You should sleep. So should you. I am naturally nocturnal. Your personnel file includes 6 complaints about you sleeping in morning meetings. Evidence of my claim. She sat across from him. Firelight from the library hearth caught in her hair. The guard woke up, she said. His name is Daniel. He has a wife and 2 daughters. Did he remember anything? A chemical smell. Heavy shoes. The attacker knew his radio code. Celeste wrapped both hands around her cup. I asked him to accompany me. If he had died, the attacker chose to hurt him. You did not. That distinction does not make his head less broken. Noah knew that tone. It was the voice of someone converting guilt into a spreadsheet because numbers felt easier than fear. When I was 19, I approved a student investment proposal, he said. It was supposed to fund affordable food trucks near campus. I trusted a friend and did not verify his supplier. He stole half the money. 3 students lost their savings. Celeste looked up. What did you do? Paid them back, reported him, then spent 2 years believing I had no right to trust my judgment again. Noah traced the rim of his cup. My mother told me responsibility is not the power to prevent every wound. It is the courage to remain after one happens. You remained. You carried Daniel out. Tomorrow, you make sure the person responsible cannot do it again. Is that why you refuse your father's company? Partly. After my mother died, every director began agreeing with me before I finished speaking. I could not tell whether I was capable or merely inherited. So I left. And became Northwind. Northwind can be wrong without moving stock prices.
Noah Arden cannot order breakfast without someone calling it a market signal. Celeste's mouth curved. Yesterday, you ordered eggs. Arden Capital rose 0.4%.
Exactly. Dangerous power. For a while, they drank in companionable silence. Mason snored once, loudly enough to startle himself, then continued sleeping. Celeste said, "I did not choose to become CEO either." Noah waited. "My father collapsed during a shareholder meeting when I was 23. Victor was expected to take control. I found evidence that he planned to divide the company and sell the research division. 4,000 jobs would have disappeared. I used my trust shares to block him and took the position temporarily." She looked toward the dark windows. Temporary became 6 years. Every time I considered leaving, another crisis arrived. Eventually, people stopped asking what I wanted. They only praised me for surviving. "What did you want?" The question seemed to surprise her. "Architecture," she said after a moment. "I wanted to design public libraries, buildings where no one had to purchase anything to belong." Noah imagined her bending over drawings instead of quarterly reports, still exacting, still impossible, but creating quiet spaces rather than defending an empire. "You would have been terrifying at zoning meetings. I would have been excellent." "Those are not mutually exclusive." She smiled into her cup. At 2 in the morning, they discovered a discrepancy. A maintenance report showed that Warehouse 4's cameras had been serviced on April 9th, but the technician listed on the invoice had died in January. Noah and Celeste leaned toward the screen at the same time. Their shoulders touched. Neither moved away. "Blue Harbor paid the maintenance contractor," Celeste said, "and Pike approved the invoice. We need to find out whether he signed it or someone used his credentials." "I can summon him tomorrow." "No, we watch him. If he is guilty, he will lead us upward. If he is framed, whoever framed him will panic when he remains free." Celeste nodded. "You enjoy this." "Fraud? Seeing the pattern before everyone else?" "A little." "You pretend not to care about winning." "I care about useful wins. Titles are just expensive name tags." Her gaze rested on him. "And what would count as a useful win for you?" "Aurora launches safely. The workers keep their jobs. My father reads my proposal before deciding he hates it." Noah paused. "And you get 1 full day in which nobody asks you to save a company." Something vulnerable crossed her face so quickly he nearly missed it. "That last one may be unrealistic," she said. "I specialize in ambitious targets." When Noah finally walked to the guest house, his phone buzzed. Celeste had sent him a photograph taken through the library glass. He was asleep, upright in his chair, mouth slightly open, while she had placed a blanket around his shoulders. Beneath the photo, she wrote one sentence. "Northwind snores." He replied from 30 meters away. "The Ice Queen takes secret pictures of vulnerable employees." Her response came at once. "Evidence preservation." Noah smiled at the screen longer than he intended. Across the courtyard, one light remained on in Celeste's room. Neither of them slept much that night, but the investigation was no longer the only reason. Over the next 4 days, Noah learned 3 things about living 30 meters from Celeste Marlowe. First, she woke at 5:30 every morning and ran exactly 6 kilometers, even in the rain. Second, she could negotiate a $1 billion credit line without notes, but could not operate the guesthouse toaster without producing smoke. Third, whenever she believed no one was watching, she stopped beside the unfinished architectural model in her study and adjusted one tiny piece at a time. It was a public library. Noah discovered it by accident when a power fluctuation knocked out the estate network. Celeste had allowed him into the main house to reset the secure router. On his way downstairs, he passed an open door and saw a pale wooden building arranged around a circular garden. Miniature reading rooms opened towards sunlight. Ramps curved between levels instead of hiding accessibility at the back. "You designed this," he said. Celeste appeared behind him with a flashlight. "Before I became CEO." "It is good. You do not know anything about architecture. I know when a place makes me want to enter it." She walked to the model and straightened a tiny bench. "The city requested proposals for this site 7 years ago. I never submitted mine." "Why not?" "My father was ill. The board needed me." "The board has needed you every day since." "Exactly." Noah studied the dustless roof. She had continued working on it in secret, not because she believed it would be built, but because some abandoned dreams refuse to die politely. "Submit it now," he said. Celeste gave him a flat look. "The deadline was 7 years ago. Then submit it somewhere else. Cities still have people who need libraries. And companies still have employees who need salaries. Those facts can exist together." Before she could answer, the lights flickered out completely. Celeste's flashlight died. Darkness swallowed the room. "Don't move," Noah said. "I am not afraid of the dark. There are 40 tiny trees on the floor. Your courage will not protect your ankles." He switched on his phone light and turned. Celeste had stepped closer than he expected. Her face was inches from his, silver hair catching the weak glow. For a suspended second, neither of them remembered the router. Then, a mechanical crash sounded downstairs. Celeste grabbed Noah's arm. "What was that?" "The Ice Queen is not afraid of darkness, but she is afraid of the toaster? That toaster has demonstrated hostile intent." They found Mason in the kitchen, standing amid fallen pans with a screwdriver in one hand and a piece of bread in the other. "Good news," he said. "I fixed the toaster." Smoke rose behind him. "Bad news," Noah said. "You are homeless again." The blackout had been caused by the storm, but it gave Mason an idea. The warehouse cameras had not been disabled through software. Their power records showed tiny fluctuations 3 minutes before every outage. Someone had installed a physical bypass in the electrical control cabinet. Only maintenance employees knew where that cabinet was. The next evening, Noah returned to Lumina for the night shift. He wore a maintenance uniform borrowed from an employee who owed him a favor and carried a toolbox fitted with Mason's cameras. Rosa created a reason for the regular supervisor to inspect the south loading dock. At 11:40, Graham Pike entered Warehouse 4 alone. Noah watched from behind stacked containers as Pike opened the electrical cabinet. He was a heavy man in his 50s, with tired eyes and the stiff posture of someone expecting punishment. He did not disable the cameras. Instead, he removed a small black device taped behind the breakers and photographed it. Noah stepped into the aisle. "Looking for this?" Pike spun. A wrench appeared in his hand. "Easy," Noah said. "If you wanted me unconscious, you would have brought something better than a 12mm wrench." "What are you doing here?" "Trying to decide whether you are a criminal or the worst whistleblower in corporate history." Pike's face emptied. "You don't know what you're talking about." "The camera bypass is attached with marine-grade adhesive. Blue Harbor Logistics ordered 200 tubes from a Belhaven supplier. You approved invoices from Blue Harbor, but the digital signatures were created when your access badge showed you at the West plant. Someone cloned your credentials. You found out. Instead of reporting it, you started collecting evidence." Pike tightened his grip on the wrench. "Who threatened you?" Noah asked. "Go back to your desk. They put an employee in the hospital and set a fire. Whatever you think silence is protecting, it is already in danger." For a long moment, Pike said nothing. Then his shoulders collapsed. "My daughter," he whispered. "Leah works in regulatory affairs at Helix Energy. 3 months ago, she discovered copied Lumina patents on their server. She called me. The next day, someone sent photographs of her leaving home, arriving at work, buying groceries. They said if I spoke, she would be charged with stealing the files." "Who contacted you?" "Messages through an encrypted account. No name. They ordered me to keep approving maintenance invoices. When I refused, they used my credentials anyway. I started saving physical labels and device parts. Then the warehouse burned. Why were the components being replaced before the acquisition?" Pike looked toward the cameras. "Because Lumina's former chairman sold the original cell design to Helix. He used cheaper parts here to cover the missing inventory. When Marlowe announced Project Aurora, Helix realized the new design would expose their stolen patent. They need the launch to fail publicly. And someone on Celeste's board is helping them." Pike nodded. "I heard one name during a phone call. Victor." A forklift engine roared at the end of the aisle. Noah turned. An unmanned vehicle accelerated toward them, forks raised at chest height. He shoved Pike behind a steel support and jumped the other way. The forklift struck the electrical cabinet. Sparks exploded across the wet floor. Noah rolled behind a pallet as alarms sounded. The vehicle reversed. Its driver's seat was empty. Someone controlled it remotely. "Mason!" Noah shouted into the button microphone beneath his collar. "Kill the warehouse network." "Trying," Mason answered through static. "The controller is on a private radio channel." The forklift swung toward Pike again. Noah saw the emergency stop button on its rear panel. Reaching it meant crossing 10 meters of open floor. He grabbed a metal packing strap, looped it around the support column, and waited until the vehicle charged. At the last second, he ran sideways and hooked the loose end over one raised fork. The strap tightened. The forklift jerked off course, struck the column, and stalled long enough for Noah to slam the emergency stop. Silence returned in pieces. Pike stared at him. "You're an analyst?" Procurement is more physical than people realize. Security teams entered from both doors. At their center was Celeste, wearing a bulletproof vest over her burgundy suit. Noah pointed at the vest. "You brought protection this time."
I'm proud.
She walked past him and punched his shoulder. "Ow! You said observation only." The forklift changed the agenda. Her hands moved over his arms and face, checking for injuries while her expression remained furious. When she found blood near his temple, her fingers trembled. "It is a scratch," he said. "You do not get to decide whether I am frightened." The words stopped him. Pike looked away with the tact of a man who had just escaped murder and still recognized a private moment. Noah lowered his voice. "You're right. I'm sorry." Celeste pressed a clean cloth to his temple. "You will tell me the next time your plan includes being struck by industrial equipment." It was not in the written plan. Add an appendix. Elena placed Pike and his daughter under protection that night. Mason recovered the remote control signal, but it bounced through half a dozen repeaters. The final relay came from a delivery van registered to a Marlowe security contractor. By the time police found it, the van was empty and wiped clean. Still, Pike's evidence transformed the case. His photographs connected Blue Harbor to a consulting company owned by Victor Marlowe's former campaign manager. His recorded messages proved someone was coercing him. Most importantly, he had preserved a damaged counterfeit cell with a manufacturing mark from a Helix energy plant. They now knew the outline of the crime. They did not yet have the single piece of evidence that could survive Victor's lawyers and a hostile board. "We need him to request another substitution," Elena said. "A live order, recorded from origin to delivery." "He will know Pike is cooperating," Celeste replied. "Then we give him a reason to believe Pike is dead," Mason said. Everyone stared at him. "Professionally dead," he clarified. "We leak that Pike fled after the warehouse attack and is the primary suspect. Victor thinks his scapegoat has disappeared. Then we announce a new Aurora durability test requiring the exact component he has been replacing. If he wants the test to fail, he must move quickly." Noah nodded slowly. "And we place a tracker inside the approved shipment." "Too detectable," Celeste said. "Please scan incoming goods." "Not an electronic tracker. We alter the trace mineral in a legitimate coolant, a chemical signature. Even if they transfer it into another container, we can identify where the replacement occurred." Pike, listening through a secure video connection, said, "Lumina's materials lab can do it. Only 3 people know how." "Make it 2, Noah said. "I will help Rosa supervise the chain." Celeste looked at him. "You understand chemical tagging?" "My mother made me study engineering before she allowed me near finance. She said money is meaningless if you don't understand what it is supposed to build." Something like admiration warmed Celeste's eyes. The plan required 4 days to prepare. Those days became the closest thing Noah and Celeste had to ordinary life. They worked in the glass library until midnight, argued over evidence, and met again at breakfast, pretending neither had waited for the other. Celeste drank coffee so strong, Noah claimed it could testify in court. Noah cooked eggs because the estate chef had been temporarily dismissed for security. His first attempt was acceptable. His second nearly set off the alarm. By the third, Celeste began appearing in the kitchen precisely when the plates were ready. "You are exploiting me for breakfast," he said. "I pay your salary." "Lumina pays my salary. You merely threaten it." "Then consider this quality control." One morning, he found her standing on a chair, trying to reach a loose cabinet hinge. The chair rocked. Noah caught her around the waist and lifted her down. Celeste landed against his chest. Her hands rested on his shoulders. His remained at her waist. "The written rules say no entry without permission," she said. "This is the kitchen." "I was referring to personal space." Noah began to release her. Celeste did not move. "Do you want me to let go?" he asked. Her eyes searched his. "No." The single word changed the air. Noah brushed one strand of silver hair from her cheek. Celeste, if I kiss you now, it won't be because of our families, the old agreement, or a message sent to the wrong person. Good, she whispered, because if you mention my mother while kissing me, I will have Iris remove you. He laughed softly. May I? You are taking too long. Their first kiss was gentle, almost careful. Celeste's fingers tightened at the back of his neck. Noah felt the controlled breath she released, the tiny step that brought her closer, and the way 6 years of discipline seemed to loosen without breaking. When they separated, her cheeks were pink, and her eyes no longer looked cold. That was not in the protocol, Noah said. I will revise it. Please include reasonable repetition rights. Celeste pulled him down and kissed him again. The toaster chose that moment to launch 2 pieces of burned bread across the counter. They jumped apart. From the doorway, Mason lowered his phone. I have never been more grateful that Iris prohibited recording devices. Celeste picked up a wooden spoon. Mason ran. For the rest of the morning, Noah found it difficult to focus on chemical signatures. Every time he looked up, Celeste was already looking at him. Every time their hands met over a document, the contact lasted slightly longer than necessary. But neither called it a relationship. The investigation was dangerous. Their families were intrusive. The old memorandum, though burned, still cast a shadow. They agreed to wait until the crisis ended before deciding what the kiss meant. It was a mature and sensible plan. It survived for less than 24 hours. The next afternoon, a photograph arrived on Celeste's phone. It showed Noah sitting inside a pastry studio with a beautiful dark-haired woman. Flour streaked his cheek. The woman held his hand across the table and leaned close enough to whisper in his ear. Beneath the photograph was an anonymous message. Your temporary fiancé seems to prefer sweeter company. Celeste looked at the image until the screen dimmed. The sensible response was obvious. Someone involved in the sabotage wanted to provoke her. The photograph had been taken through glass, cropped to remove context, and delivered from an account created minutes earlier. A person who expected to manipulate Celeste with jealousy did not understand her. Unfortunately, jealousy understood her perfectly. She enlarged the woman's face. Dark hair, warm brown eyes, approximately Noah's age. No match appeared in the employee database. Flour covered the table. A tray of small blue cakes rested near a laboratory scale. Celeste told herself the cakes were relevant. At 6 that evening, Noah entered the glass library carrying a white pastry box. He looked tired and pleased with himself. I brought experimental peace offerings, he said. Mason says the blue ones may temporarily stain your tongue, but that is a cosmetic issue. Celeste placed her phone on the table with the photograph visible. Noah stopped. Who is she? Celeste asked. He examined the image. His expression sharpened at once. Who sent this? Anonymous account. When? 2 hours ago. He checked the courtyard, then closed the library shades. Her name is Maya Serrano. She owns Second Rise, the pastry studio near the river. I can see what she owns. Why were you there? Noah was silent for 1 second too long. I cannot tell you yet. Celeste felt something inside her lock into place. You cannot tell the CEO leading the investigation why you met a stranger while our evidence plan was being prepared? Not until she gives permission. She held your hand. The moment the words left her mouth, Celeste wished she could retrieve them. Noah's eyebrows rose. Is that the issue? The issue is secrecy. Then why mention my hand? Because it is in the photograph. So is a fire extinguisher, but you did not ask whether I was romantically involved with it. Celeste stood. If you intend to make jokes, we can speak later. Noah did not move aside. No. We agreed not to let other people write the meaning of what happens between us. Someone sent you a cropped photograph because they want suspicion. Ask me what you actually want to know. She hated how easily he saw through her. She hated even more that part of her was relieved. Did you kiss her? No. Are you dating her? No. Do you want to? No. Each answer came without hesitation. Celeste folded her arms, less from anger than to keep her hands still. Then why was she holding you? Noah turned his right palm upward. A fresh bandage crossed the base of his thumb. I broke a glass ampule. She was removing a piece before I bled into the samples. Samples? That is the part I cannot explain without her approval. She is afraid of Marlowe Industries, and she has earned the right to choose when her name enters our official record. Give me until tomorrow morning. Celeste looked at the bandage, then at the pastry box. The blue cakes were the same ones in the photograph. You brought me evidence? I brought you dessert. The evidence is less edible. You should not assume that distinction matters after some of your breakfasts. His mouth curved, but he remained serious. Now I get to ask a question. Do you trust me? Celeste's first instinct was to say, trust had to be verified. It was the answer she had given in every negotiation for 6 years. But Noah was not asking as an employee or an heir. He was asking as the man she had kissed in her kitchen. I trust what you do, she said slowly. I am still learning to trust what I cannot see. Fair. I will not ask for more than that. He started toward the guest house. Noah, he turned. Celeste forced herself to say the more difficult truth. I was jealous. Not because I believe I own you. I know I do not. I was jealous because I wanted that photograph to be of us. The guarded look left his face. He crossed the room, stopped close enough to touch her, and waited. Celeste closed the final distance herself. When she rested her forehead against his chest, his arms came around her. For the record, he murmured, I would prefer the photograph of us too. Even if I stain my tongue blue? Especially then. It might frighten Victor into confessing. The following morning, Maya Serrano arrived through the estate's service entrance carrying a locked cooler. She had once been Lumina's senior materials chemist. 3 years earlier, Graham Pike asked her to certify cooling gel from a replacement supplier. The gel failed her tests. Damian Cross ordered her to change the result. She refused and was dismissed for alleged misconduct. Maya had kept the original samples. I opened the bakery because chemistry positions became difficult to find after a major corporation called me unstable, she told Celeste. Pastry work uses many of the same skills, and customers rarely ask you to falsify a croissant. Celeste did not defend the company. You should never have been punished for telling the truth. If our evidence supports your account, Marlowe Industries will clear your record, compensate you, and publish the correction. Whether you ever work with us again will be your choice. Maya studied her. No confidentiality agreement? Not unless you request one. No threat disguised as an apology? No. Maya looked at Noah. You were right. She is less terrifying before coffee. Celeste turned her gaze on him. I said marginally less, Noah replied. Maya's old sample contained a rare stabilizing mineral sourced from one licensed mine. It could serve as the chemical signature for the legitimate shipment. More importantly, the counterfeit gel currently in Lumina's batteries matched the failed sample she had preserved 3 years earlier. That proved the substitution scheme existed long before Project Aurora. Someone has been selling the licensed material and filling Lumina's cells with cheap gel, Noah said. The profits went through Blue Harbor. And the stolen material probably went to Helix, Maya added. Their newest battery has suspiciously good heat tolerance. They prepared the trap. Celeste announced that Project Aurora would undergo an independent thermal test in 72 hours. A new shipment of certified gel would arrive the following night. Only 6 executives received the schedule, and each digital copy contained a different invisible marker. If the information leaked, Mason could identify whose copy had been opened. Noah spent the afternoon at Lumina pretending to complain about overtime. Rosa supervised the real shipment. Elena placed unmarked teams along the delivery route. Maya remained in a laboratory to test whatever arrived. At 5, a junior executive assistant named Jade Lin appeared beside Noah's desk with 2 cups of coffee. Jade was 25, polished, and famous among Lumina employees for appearing wherever senior management happened to be looking. She had transferred from Victor's office after the acquisition and described every calculated move as an innocent coincidence. You look exhausted, she said, placing 1 cup near his keyboard. Miss Marlowe works people too hard. She has not noticed I am a person yet. I am trying to preserve the illusion. Jade laughed and leaned against his desk. You have been visiting the estate. People are curious. Noah kept his eyes on the spreadsheet. I repair antique sprinklers in my spare time. You don't need to hide it from me. I saw the way she watches you. Jade lowered her voice. Just be careful. Miss Marlowe gets interested in projects, improves them, and moves on. Men are not different.
Is that advice from experience?
For one instant, Jade's smile tightened. From observation. Noah lifted the coffee, but did not drink. Written in tiny pen marks around the cardboard sleeve were 3 numbers. The last matched the batch code for the gel shipment. Jade wanted him to notice. "Are you free tonight?" she asked. "There is a new bar near the river. No cameras, no executives." Tempting, but I promised my toaster a rematch. You could do better than someone who treats affection like a quarterly target. Maybe, but I like difficult investments. Jade touched his shoulder. Across the office, a phone camera rose above a cubicle wall. Noah allowed the contact to continue for 2 seconds, then stepped away. "Thank you for the coffee," he said. "Tell whoever takes the next photograph to use my left side." Her face went blank. He walked to the restroom, photographed the numbers, and poured the coffee down the drain. Mason answered on the first vibration. "The batch code leaked," Noah said. "Jade knows it. She also arranged the photo of Maya. Her copy of the test schedule was clean," Mason replied. "No tracking alert. Then she got it from someone else's copy. Check Victor's marker." Keys rattled in the background. "His file was never opened." "Because he already knew the schedule. Check Celeste's." Silence. "Opened at 4:12 this morning," Mason said. "From the estate network." Noah's skin went cold. Only 6 people had access to the glass library at 4:12. Noah, Celeste, Mason, Iris, Elena, and the night security supervisor. "Do not tell anyone," Noah said. "Not even Celeste. Meet me in the west stairwell." "You just completed a trust conversation about secrets. This is going to go beautifully. Bring the network logs." At 8 that evening, the legitimate gel truck left the licensed supplier. Elena's teams followed at a distance. The truck crossed the North Bridge, passed the airport junction, and entered an industrial tunnel beneath the river. All tracking signals disappeared. They returned 90 seconds later. The truck emerged on schedule and continued toward Lumina. "Too easy," Noah said from the surveillance van. They made the switch in the tunnel. Elena radioed the lead car. "Do not stop the vehicle. Follow to the plant." "The driver could be in danger," Celeste said. "The original truck never left the tunnel," Noah replied. "This one is a duplicate. Look at the right rear light. The supplier's truck has a crack across the lens. This one does not." Mason pulled traffic camera feeds. A maintenance vehicle had blocked one lane inside the tunnel. For 87 seconds, both cameras showed pre-recorded footage. When the feed returned, the duplicate truck drove out. The original had vanished through an emergency service passage. "Only the City Transport Authority can open that gate," Iris said. "Or a Marlowe director with infrastructure contacts," Celeste answered. The duplicate reached Lumina at 9:17. Rosa accepted it under observation. Maya tested the gel and found no trace of the mineral signature. The counterfeiters had taken the bait. But without the original truck, they could not prove where the exchange occurred or who received the stolen material. Noah looked at the route map. The service passage connected to 3 roads, one toward the port, one toward a waste processing facility, and one toward an abandoned Marlowe bottling plant. "Victor bought the bottling plant through a redevelopment trust last year," Celeste said. "Then that is where they expect us to look," Noah replied. "He knows we can trace property records." "You think it is a decoy?" "I think he wants evidence found there. Evidence with someone else's name on it." They searched anyway. Police entered the bottling plant at midnight and discovered the original truck behind a locked loading bay. The driver was alive, sedated, and handcuffed inside the cab. Boxes of legitimate gel had been opened but not removed. On a desk nearby, investigators found payment records, forged certificates, and a phone containing messages from Graham Pike. It was perfect evidence. Too perfect. Elena read one message and shook her head. "The grammar is wrong. Pike does not use contractions in any of his recorded communications. These were manufactured." Mason examined the phone. "Created yesterday. No fingerprints." Celeste looked at Noah. "Victor is framing Pike." "And expecting us to announce victory," he said. "The counterfeit gel came from somewhere else. The real shipment never changed trucks." Maya opened one of the supposedly legitimate boxes and removed a sealed container. "The mineral signature is here." Everyone stared. "Then how did counterfeit gel arrive at Lumina?" Iris asked. Noah replayed the loading yard video.
The duplicate truck entered the gate. Rosa inspected its seal. Workers unloaded 12 containers and carried them toward the lab. One worker wore a cap low over his face. He pushed a cart containing 2 extra containers that had never been on the truck. The tunnel was theater, Noah said. They swapped license plates and hid the original truck to keep us looking away from Lumina. The replacement happened inside our own gate. He enlarged the worker's badge. The image pixelated, but the number was clear. It belonged to Estate Night Security Supervisor Owen Price, the same man who could access the glass library at 412. Celeste reached for her phone. Noah caught her wrist. If we arrest him now, he leads nowhere. He entered my home. And copied your file. He wants us to believe someone close to you betrayed the plan. Celeste's eyes shifted to Iris, then Mason, then Noah.
He saw the doubt she was trying not to feel.
Did you know my file was opened?
She asked. Noah did not lie. Since this afternoon.
And you chose not to tell me.
I did not know who accessed it. If the leak was inside this team, warning everyone would warn the mole.
You decided I might be the mole in my own investigation?
I decided evidence matters more than what I wanted to believe. You taught me that. Pain replaced the anger on her face.
Trust what I do, you said.
But when it was your turn to trust what you could not see, you investigated me. Noah released her wrist. Yes, because 2 people have nearly died. I would make the same decision again. But I should have told you the moment we identified Owen. I am sorry for that. Celeste looked away.
We will finish the operation first.
Her voice had returned to ice. They allowed Owen to leave Lumina with the empty replacement containers. Mason hid a passive chemical marker beneath one wheel, something no scanner would detect.
Elena's team followed without electronic communication. Owen drove, not to Victor's home or Helix headquarters, but to Marlowe Tower. At 2 in the morning, he entered the underground garage using Damian Cross's executive access code. Then, every light in the garage went out. By the time emergency power returned, Owen was gone. The containers were burning inside his van, and Damian Cross lay unconscious beside the elevator with Victor Marlowe's monogrammed cufflink clutched in his hand. The police arrested Victor before sunrise. Noah knew immediately that they had arrested the wrong man. Victor Marlowe was arrogant, manipulative, and perfectly willing to use an outdated marriage promise to strengthen his position. He was also too careful to leave a cufflink at a crime scene arranged around his own property records. At 7 that morning, Noah entered the secure interview room where Victor sat beside 2 attorneys. Celeste remained behind the observation glass with Elena. She had not spoken to Noah since the garage. Victor's white hair was disordered, but his outrage was precise. "The hidden Arden prince," he said when Noah sat down. "I wondered when you would stop pretending to be furniture." "Where is Owen Price?" "I do not know who that is." "Your security contractor assigned him to Celeste's estate." "My office approves companies, not guards." Noah placed a photograph of the cufflink on the table. "Yours?" Victor glanced at it. "Part of a set I received at the Founders' Gala. 20 identical pairs were made. Damian Cross has one. So does every director who served 10 years. Elena had not mentioned that. "Why did you buy the abandoned bottling plant?" Noah asked. "I did not. A redevelopment trust in which I own 8% bought it. Damian recommended the investment." "You opposed the Lumina acquisition." "Because its books were fraudulent and Celeste paid too much. I was right about both. That does not mean I set fire to her warehouse." Victor leaned forward. For the first time, anger gave way to something more credible. "I want the chair, Mr. Arden. I have always wanted it. But a dead niece cannot appoint me, and a burned battery company is worth nothing. My plan was to force Celeste into a governance compromise, not prison. You worked with Helix. I met their chairman twice. Damian arranged both meetings and argued that we should sell Lumina's patents. I refused once Project Aurora passed the first internal test. Why not tell Celeste?" Victor's smile was bitter. "Because admitting she made a good acquisition would weaken my argument that she needs oversight. I said I was ambitious, not noble." Noah believed that part. He placed Jade Lynn's photograph on the table. "Do you know her?" "She worked for me until Damian requested her transfer."
You recommended her to Celeste's office. At Damien's request, he said she was talented. Every road curved back to Damien Cross. Behind the glass, Celeste turned and walked out. When the interview ended, Mila found her in a quiet corridor speaking to the board by phone. She announced that Project Aurora's public launch would be suspended, pending an independent safety review. The decision was responsible. It was also exactly what the saboteur wanted. The board called an emergency session for noon, she said after disconnecting. They want me temporarily removed from the acquisition review because Victor is family. Who takes control? Damien. That is the objective. I know. Then do not give it to him. Celeste faced him. Fatigue shadowed her eyes, but her posture was straight. A prototype overheated, a warehouse burned, a guard was attacked, and a second attempted murder happened under my investigation. The board has grounds to demand oversight. If I resist without proof, Damien will claim I am protecting Victor. We can prove Damien arranged the property trust and Jade's transfer. We can prove he did his job. We cannot prove he ordered a crime. Give me 12 hours. You asked for 10 days at the beginning. Today is day 9. Then I am still ahead of schedule. Her expression almost softened, but the wound between them remained. You do not have to trust me personally, Noah said. Trust the pattern. Damien created a trail toward Victor, then arranged for himself to be found unconscious beside the evidence. He made himself victim, witness, and successor in one scene. I trust the pattern, but not me. Celeste was silent. I am not angry that you considered me a suspect, she said at last. I am angry that for several hours you looked at me, worked beside me, and chose strategy over honesty. That is what every person in my family does. They call secrecy protection, and expect me to be grateful when the truth becomes convenient. Noah accepted the blow. My mother used to say that a correct decision made without respect can still damage people. I thought secrecy was necessary. I did not consider what it would cost you. And now? Now I know. I cannot promise I will never withhold information in an active operation. That would be dishonest. I can promise I will tell you the reason, set a limit, and never use your feelings as a tool. Celeste looked at him for a long time. 12 hours. Is that professional trust or personal trust? Do not waste one of them by asking. At noon, the board placed Damien Cross in temporary control of Project Aurora. His first act was to schedule an emergency sale discussion with Helix Energy for the following evening. His second was to revoke Noah's building access. His third was to leak Noah's identity. At 1:12, a financial news site published photographs of Noah entering the Marlowe estate. The headline accused Celeste of secretly negotiating a family merger while spending company resources on Arden Capital's Heir. Within minutes, reporters surrounded Marlowe Tower. Lumina employees discovered that the lazy analyst who ate lunch beside them was worth billions. Arden Capital stock surged, Marlowe shares fell, and the internet began turning a dangerous investigation into romantic entertainment. Mason showed Noah the trending topics. Secret heir sleeps his way into battery deal. Ice Queen melts for rival billionaire. Black shirt mystery explained. Noah pointed at the last one. How do they know about the shirt? Jade copied your message from Celeste's synced tablet, Mason said. She sold the screenshot to 3 entertainment accounts 10 minutes before the identity story went live. Find her. They found Jade in an underground parking lot carrying a suitcase. She had purchased a train ticket under a false name and withdrawn $40,000 in cash. When Noah stepped in front of her car, she locked the doors. Mason leaned toward the windshield. We can wait. The air quality in here is terrible. Jade lowered the window 2 centimeters. Move. Damien is eliminating witnesses, Noah said. Owen has disappeared. He framed Victor. Do you think the 40,000 is a reward or a receipt? Her face tightened. I don't know anything. You copied Celeste's file. You sent the photograph of Maya. You knew the gel batch code. That makes you the easiest person to blame for everything. Damien said no one would get hurt. The confession came out as a whisper. Noah crouched until they were eye level. What did he ask you to do? At first, only schedules. Who Celeste met, which directors disagreed, when the lab tests happened.
He said Victor was planning a hostile takeover and we were protecting the company. Jade gripped the steering wheel. Then he asked for the estate file. I did not know Owen would enter the house. I swear. The warehouse photograph? Damien gave it to me. He wanted Celeste distracted and you isolated. When it did not work, he told me to make it look as if I was interested in you. He said jealousy would expose whether your relationship was real. Why continue after the fire? Tears filled Jade's eyes, but Noah did not allow them to erase the question. Because I had already taken money, she said. Because you had recordings. Because every time I tried to stop, the consequences became larger. That explains your choices. It does not excuse them. An employee is in the hospital because information you supplied helped someone enter the warehouse. I know. Then help us prevent the next injury. Jade unlocked the door. She gave Elena access to a hidden cloud account containing messages from Damien. Most were coded, but one instructed her to place a duplicate access card in Owen's locker. Another ordered her to photograph Noah with Maya. The messages proved conspiracy and unauthorized surveillance. They still did not directly connect Damien to Helix or the counterfeit components. He never discussed shipments in writing, Jade said. He met someone every Thursday at the Vesper Club. Private room, no phones. I booked the reservation under the name Daniel Crow. He is meeting Helix tomorrow to sell the patents, Celeste said over a secure call. There is no Thursday meeting. Jade shook her head. There is always a Thursday meeting, even when he travels. Tomorrow at 10. Mason checked the calendar. The Helix negotiation begins at 8. Public contract signing is scheduled for 10. Same building. Noah understood. The sale is the meeting. Damien will use a legitimate negotiation to deliver whatever Helix needs and receive payment. If we arrest him before the signing, his attorneys argue Jade acted alone, Elena said. If we allow the signing, Lumina's patents could be transferred. Celeste replied, Not without my founder shares. Even suspended, I have veto authority over intellectual property sales. The board believes you will attend remotely, Noah said. Damien expects to pressure you with the stock collapse and scandal. Then I will surprise him. The Vesper Club occupied the upper floors of the city's oldest bank. Its grand ballroom had marble columns, private balconies, and a glass ceiling overlooking the river. Damien transformed the emergency negotiation into a public spectacle. Reporters were invited. Helix executives displayed prototypes built with Lumina's stolen cooling technology. Board members arrived expecting to watch Celeste surrender. Noah was not invited. He entered through the catering kitchen wearing a waiter's jacket and carrying a tray of lemon tarts. Maya had supplied both. If finance disappoints you, she told him through his earpiece, your pastry technique is adequate for entry-level work. That is the kindest thing anyone has said today. Mason's voice joined the channel. Security camera loop begins in 20 seconds. Iris has Celeste at the east entrance. Elena's warrant team is 2 blocks away. Do not improvise. You say that every time, and it never becomes more realistic. Noah crossed the ballroom as Damien began his presentation. The CFO wore a dark suit, a sympathetic expression, and one of the commemorative cufflinks Victor had described. His supposed head injury had left a bandage positioned perfectly for cameras. Marlowe Industries faces a crisis of confidence, Damien told the audience. Personal entanglements and family rivalries have compromised Project Aurora. Today, we choose safety, stability, and transparent leadership. Behind him, a screen displayed the leaked photograph of Noah entering Celeste's estate. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Our proposed partnership with Helix will protect Lumina's employees, Damien continued. It will place the technology in responsible hands. Noah nearly laughed. Helix's contract, which Iris had obtained that morning, guaranteed only 600 of Lumina's 2,000 jobs. The rest would be terminated after the patents transferred. At the center table, Victor's empty chair carried a reserved sign. Damien had made sure every guest noticed the accused vice chairman's absence. The ballroom doors opened. Celeste entered in a deep red suit, silver hair swept back, with Iris at one side and Graham Pike's daughter Leah at the other. The room fell silent. Damien recovered quickly. Celeste, your attorney advised remote attendance. My attorney also advised me not to sign a fraudulent contract. I ignored neither recommendation. She walked to the stage. Before this board considers transferring Project Aurora,
The employees affected deserved to hear the terms. She displayed the termination schedule. Anger moved through the Lumina representatives in the room. The Helix chairman rose. "That document is confidential and incomplete." "It is signed by your chief operating officer," Celeste replied. "Which part is incomplete?" "The closure of Warehouse 4 or the cancellation of employee pensions." Damien cut the display.
This is not relevant to the safety failure.
"It is relevant to motive. Helix needs Aurora to fail because its latest battery contains a stabilizing compound stolen from Lumina 3 years ago. Maya's test results appeared on every reporter's tablet. Mason had timed the release. Damien looked toward security.
Remove her. The board suspended her authority over this project.
No guard moved. Iris had replaced the club's private team with licensed officers 10 minutes earlier. "You can suspend a title," Celeste said. "You cannot suspend evidence." The Helix chairman leaned close to Damien. Noah used the distraction to enter the private service corridor behind the stage. According to Jade, Damien always placed sensitive documents in a locked case carried by his driver. The case should have been in room 7. It was not. Instead, Noah found Owen Price. The security supervisor sat bound to a chair, bruised but alive. A wire ran from beneath the chair to 4 battery modules stacked against the wall. A digital timer showed 7 minutes. Owen opened his eyes. "Don't touch it. Pressure switch." Noah's blood went cold. Damien had never intended merely to sign a contract. He intended to create one final Aurora battery fire in a room full of cameras, kill the missing witness, and blame Celeste's project for the disaster. Noah pressed his earpiece. "Mason, evacuate the ballroom. Quietly. There is an explosive thermal rig behind the stage. Can you disable it?" Noah examined the modules. Coolant lines connected them in series. Removing one would increase pressure in the others. The timer was linked to the room's electronic lock. "Not before it triggers. Get Celeste out." Her voice entered the channel. "I heard that. For once in your life, follow an instruction. Tell me what you need." "The building's old fire suppression plan."
This was a bank vault before it became a club. There may be a manual flood system, Iris answered.
"Archive search in progress." 5 minutes, 40 seconds. Owen's breathing became shallow.
Damien made me copy the file.
"I tried to leave after the warehouse. He caught me in the garage." "Save the confession for later," Noah said. "You are going to repeat it in court." He inspected the battery housing. The counterfeit gel would ignite near 180 degrees. If he could separate the control sensor from its heater, the timer might expire without initiating thermal runaway. But the wires were hidden inside a sealed casing. Noah took a butter knife from his catering tray and began removing the panel screws. "You brought a knife to a bomb?" Mason asked. "I brought dessert to a corporate sale. Expectations were unclear." 4 minutes. The ballroom evacuation began under the pretense of a fire code issue. Damien saw guests moving and turned toward the service corridor. Elena intercepted him at the stage steps. "Mr. Cross, remain where you are." Damien smiled. "Do you have a warrant?" "In 40 seconds." He threw a glass into her face and ran. Celeste saw him enter the corridor, then she followed. Damien reached room 7 with 3 minutes remaining. He stopped when he saw Noah kneeling beside the battery rig. "You really are incapable of staying invisible," Damien said. Noah kept turning the butter knife. "And you are incapable of committing fraud without a presentation. We all have weaknesses." Damien pulled a small remote from his pocket. His thumb rested above a red switch. "Move away from the modules. If that remote could trigger them, you would not need the timer. It controls the corridor locks." Damien's expression changed just enough to confirm it. Noah removed the outer panel. Inside, 3 identical wires connected the timer to the heater relay. Cutting the wrong one would close the circuit.
"You think you are clever because you spent a year playing employee," Damien said. "Your father gave you a name that opens every door. Celeste inherited voting shares before she could legally drink. Neither of you understands what people like me have to do to reach the same room."
"You reached it," Noah replied. "Then you set it on fire because the chair was not comfortable enough. I made Marlowe profitable. Victor took credit. Celeste took control. I received a salary and their gratitude. Helix offered me ownership in exchange for stolen technology and 2,000 jobs.
Those workers would be replaced by automation within 5 years anyway. I merely assigned a price to reality. 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Celeste entered behind Damien without a sound. She held one of the ballroom's brass stanchions in both hands. Noah saw her reflection in the battery casing and continued talking. Then why frame Victor? Because this company worships family.
I needed the family to destroy itself. Once Celeste sold Aurora, the board would remove her. Once Victor went to prison, no one could challenge me. And Owen? An unfortunate safety failure. Celeste swung the stanchion into Damien's wrist. The remote flew across the room. Damien turned and struck her hard enough to send her into the wall. Noah started up, but Celeste shouted, "The relay!" She blocked Damien's path while Noah returned to the panel. 1 minute, 50 seconds. "Iris," Celeste said into her earpiece, breathing hard. "Where is the flood control?" "There is a manual valve behind the north service wall. The renovation covered it with paneling." Celeste looked at the room. The north wall was hidden behind dark wooden shelves. Damien lunged for the remote. She kicked it beneath Owen's chair. "You designed the renovation plans," Damien snarled. "There is no valve here." "I reviewed them," Celeste said. "You approved the contractor who ignored them." She pulled 2 books from the center shelf and drove the brass stanchion into the thin backing. Wood cracked. Behind it, an old red wheel emerged from the stone. 1 minute. Noah traced the wires. The first carried current to the display. The second linked the pressure switch. The third disappeared behind the heating element. "Turn the valve," he said. Celeste gripped the wheel. It did not move. Damien rushed her. Owen extended one bound leg and caught his ankle. Damien fell. Celeste planted both feet against the wall and pulled until rust broke loose with a metallic scream. Pipes thundered overhead. 40 seconds. Water did not fall. "The outlet gates are closed," Iris said. "There should be a second release near the vault door." Noah saw a brass lever above him, nearly hidden behind the battery stack. Reaching it meant leaning over the pressurized coolant line. He climbed onto the table. "Noah, wait!" Celeste said. 20 seconds. He stretched. His fingers brushed the lever, but could not close around it. Damien rose behind Celeste and reached inside his jacket. Elena appeared in the doorway with her weapon drawn. "Hands where I can see them." Damien froze. 10 seconds. Celeste climbed onto the table beside Noah. "Together. The table will not hold both of us." "Then stop eating my breakfast." She locked one arm around his waist and used the other to push his shoulder upward. Noah caught the lever. 3. He pulled. 2. Ancient gates opened above them. 1. Thousands of liters of cold water crashed into the room as the timer reached 0. The heater sparked. One cell ruptured. Instead of igniting, the gel burst beneath the flood and washed across the stone floor in a harmless blue stream. The table collapsed. Noah and Celeste landed together in ankle-deep water. Elena secured Damien while officers freed Owen. Alarms filled the building, but no fire followed. Celeste pushed wet hair from her face. "Did we win?" Noah looked at the ruined batteries, the conscious witness, and Damien Cross in handcuffs. "Useful enough," he said. Then she kissed him in front of the police, the prosecutor, and one extremely confused fire marshal. The Vesper Club incident ended the safety investigation within days. Owen testified that Damien ordered the warehouse attack and forced him to copy Celeste's file. Jade provided the communication records. Graham Pike identified the original counterfeit process. Maya's preserved samples connected Helix to the stolen stabilizer, and the chemical marker proved the final shipment had been manipulated inside Lumina. Damien's private trust held payments from 3 Helix subsidiaries. Faced with the complete chain, Helix's chairman accepted a plea agreement and returned every stolen patent. Victor was released. He issued a public statement thanking law enforcement and carefully omitted Noah and Celeste. At the next board meeting, however, he voted for Celeste to retain full authority. When asked why, he said he preferred a living rival to an imprisoned ally. It was almost an apology. Celeste accepted it as one. The press conference took place on Lumina's factory floor. Celeste stood not behind a stage, but beside Rosa, Daniel, Graham, Maya, and representatives from every shift. She described the failures honestly. She announced independent safety oversight, restitution for harmed employees,
and a permanent worker council with access to the board's risk committee. Then Noah stepped to the microphone. The room erupted with questions. Was he the Arden heir? Had he lived at Celeste's estate? Were they secretly engaged? Had Arden Capital engineered the acquisition? Was the black shirt message real? Noah waited until the noise faded. "Yes, I am Richard Arden's son," he said.
I joined Lumina under my mother's surname because I wanted to understand this company without the protection of my family. That secrecy allowed me to uncover fraud, but it also deceived people who worked beside me. They deserved honesty sooner. I am sorry. Rosa stood in the front row with her arms folded. "You still owe me $20 from the office pool." Laughter broke the tension. "That debt is unrelated to my identity," Noah replied, "and remains disputed." He explained Northwind and released the full supplier risk model for independent review. He also disclosed every connection between Arden Capital and Marlowe Industries, including the burned family memorandum. "There was never a binding engagement," he said. "No merger was negotiated through a personal relationship, and neither company owns our choices." A reporter shouted, "Then what is Miss Marlowe to you?" Noah looked at Celeste. For years, other people had written her role. Daughter, heir, ice queen, temporary CEO, future bride. He would not do it again. "That is a question I would rather answer with her than for her," he said. Celeste took the second microphone. "Noah is the man who sent an inappropriate message to the wrong contact," she said. The factory laughed again. Noah covered his eyes. "He is also the partner who challenged me when I was wrong, trusted my ability when I had forgotten my own choices, and helped save this company without asking to own it." She looked directly at him. "At present, I would like him to take me to dinner. After that, we will decide together." Noah lowered his hand. "Black shirt?" "Obviously." Project Aurora launched 6 weeks later. Celeste refused to keep the original deadline simply to satisfy investors. Every component was tested twice, supplier records became visible to the Worker Council, and Maya led an independent materials laboratory that reported outside the finance department. The first home unit was installed at a rural medical clinic, where winter storms regularly cut power. When the next storm arrived, Aurora kept the clinic running for 53 hours. No one lost a job. Noah returned to Arden Capital for the first time as himself. He presented the restructuring proposal his father had demanded: profit sharing for rescued companies, anonymous safety reporting, executive rotations through frontline operations, and voting representation for employees during acquisitions. The directors objected for 4 hours. Richard Arden listened without rescuing him. When the final vote came, the proposal passed by 1 seat. Richard cast a deciding vote. Afterward, father and son stood alone in the boardroom. "Your mother would have changed 12 slides," Richard said. "Only 12? She would have approved the conclusion." Noah waited. In their family, affection often arrived disguised as criticism. Richard adjusted his cuff. "The office is still available." "I do not want your chair." "I know. That is why you may eventually deserve it. Until then, build your own." Noah accepted a position leading Arden Capital's Responsible Acquisition Unit, with a contract giving him freedom to publish findings even when the board disliked them. He kept his small apartment, his desk at Lumina, and his instant noodles. He stopped pretending to be incompetent. That last change disappointed Mason, who had won money betting Noah would be fired before revealing his identity. The 30-day secure residence arrangement ended on schedule. Noah packed his bag and found Celeste waiting in the guesthouse doorway. She wore the world's okayest daughter mug in one hand like an emotional shield. "Iris says the security threat is over," she said. "Iris also placed my suitcase beside the front gate at 6 this morning. She values procedural closure." And subtlety. Neither mentioned that Noah had spent most of the previous week in the main house. Neither needed to. Celeste held out a document. It was a revised secure residence protocol. The first page contained only 3 rules: entry permitted by invitation, breakfast duties shared equally, flirting after midnight encouraged when directed to the correct recipient. Noah read the last line twice. "This is an aggressive legal instrument. You may negotiate. I want unlimited repetition rights for kitchen kisses. Reasonable requests only." "Then I request one now." Celeste set down the mug and granted it. They did not rush into marriage. For the first time in either of their lives, there was no board deadline, family memorandum, or crisis deciding the pace. They dated like two people learning an unfamiliar language. Noah took Celeste to street markets, where no one recognized her beneath a baseball cap. She took him to construction sites and explained why badly placed doors made buildings feel hostile. They argued about work, apologized before resentment became strategy, and kept separate homes until staying apart became more inconvenient than moving together. Celeste also submitted her library design, not to the long-finished competition, but to a neighborhood foundation renovating an abandoned train station. She revised the model after speaking to teachers, wheelchair users, parents, and children who wanted a room where they could be loud without being asked to leave. Marlowe Industries donated materials anonymously. Celeste worked on the project under her own name. 1 year after the wrong message, Noah stood with her inside the unfinished library. Evening light poured through the circular garden. Sawdust covered the floor. The reading rooms looked exactly as they had in the model, except they were real enough to echo. Celeste's phone vibrated. She opened a message from Noah, although he was standing 5 steps away. "Still awake, beautiful? If you keep making me wait, I may stop behaving." Celeste looked up. Noah wore the black shirt. In one hand, he held 2 lemon tarts. In the other, he held a small ring box, closed. "You sent it to the correct person this time," she said. "I checked 4 times. "And the tarts?" A reminder that we survive terrible decisions together. He did not kneel immediately. Instead, he placed the box between them. "Our families once tried to make this choice for us," he said. "I never want that history to turn a question into an obligation. You can say no, not yet, or never, and I will still be proud of what we built. But if the answer is yes, I want every ordinary morning, every difficult argument, every burned breakfast, and every impossible project with you." Celeste Marlowe. "Would you choose me?" Her eyes filled, but her smile did not break. "I already did," she said. "I was waiting for you to ask correctly." Then he opened the box. The ring was simple, set with a pale blue stone the color of morning light on glass. Inside the band, he had engraved 2 words: "Useful wins." Celeste laughed through her tears and held out her hand. "Yes, Noah, but I have one condition." "I expected several." "No lemon dessert at the wedding." "Unreasonable, but accepted." He slid the ring onto her finger. She pulled him to his feet before he could finish standing and kissed him beneath the unfinished library dome. Months later, when the building opened, children filled the reading rooms before the ribbon was cut. Celeste stood at the edge of the crowd without a microphone or security barrier. A little girl asked whether she owned the library. Celeste knelt beside her. "No, this belongs to everyone." Noah watched from the doorway, holding 2 coffees and wearing a tie because Celeste claimed civilization occasionally required one. His phone buzzed. Her message said, "Dinner, 7 o'clock, black shirt. Do not make promises to your future wife that you cannot keep." He looked across the room. Celeste raised one eyebrow and waited. Noah typed back, "Ask nicely." Her reply arrived almost at once. "Please." That single word still had the power to surprise him. The accidental message had not changed Noah's life because fate delivered the correct woman to the wrong contact. It changed his life because, after the mistake, both of them kept choosing honesty over assumption, responsibility over image, and each other over the roles their families had written. The first flirtation was an accident. Everything that followed was a choice.